Hey everybody, and welcome to the tutorial for the financial calculator. So I don't have the best camera set up for this. I might re-record this later using I'm gonna go to my brother's house this weekend, and maybe he has a professional recording setup, so maybe I can use his. But for now, I just wanted to give you the basics on how to use the HP 10B. It's this guy. And I may do another video on the 12C, but I think this is the one that's recommended for the class. So when we're using this calculator, the first thing that we want to do, make sure that your batteries are not really old. I don't know if we can see both these things at the same time, but turn it off, open the back. It's going to use these 2 lithium-ion batteries. You can order these from Amazon. They're really cheap. Just if you have a new calculator, you probably won't have a battery issue, but for mine, the batteries were dead, so I had to replace them. The batteries, they're going to look something like this. You're going to order something like this from Amazon, and you'll get like 20 of them, but they're cheap. So that's step 1. If the calculator dies during the exam, I'm not going to be able to help you, so make sure that your batteries are in good shape. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to just do a couple of settings on here. So you see I have here switch to annual compounding. And the way that we do that is by default, this thing is on monthly compounding. So to just have annual, I think it's conceptually, it's easier to do things that way. You just do 1 shift, which is this button, this orange one for me. On my old version, this is the shift button, and then you do PMT, and that will switch the compounding to annual. And that's actually, it's not PMT, it's this periods per year. Orange thing is what you're doing. So we're setting the periods per year to 1. Second thing you might want to do is change the decimals. So the way you do that is you do shift equal, and let's say I want 6 decimals. So now it'll show me things out to 6 decimals. I don't know in this class what you're going to need, but set it to whatever you're comfortable with. Maybe you do 2 or 3. I personally don't mind having it on 2, but if there's some answer that you need to calculate that's more than 2 digits, you might need more than that. So actually for this, let's put it at 4. So it is shift equal 4, and now you see I have 4 decimal places. Whenever you're starting a new problem, always clear the memory. So it saves variables that we've input into here, and we just need to make sure that they are cleared. So you're going to do shift input, I think clears the memory. And in general, for time value of money problems, I mentioned, so the formula is, for the basic ones, is always going to be this. It's going to be, can you see this? It's going to be PV equals FV over 1 plus R raised to the T. So you can see this, right? So the 4 variables are this, 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 and this. The 4 variables are going to be the PV, FV, the R, and the T. This is present value. This is the future value. This is the interest rate. And this is the number of periods. And typically, so in the chapter 5 problem that we've been working on, it's going to give you 3 of these, and you have to solve for the 4th. So if it gives you the PV, the FV, and the R, we have to solve for the T, and we're going to walk through a couple examples of how to do that. So whenever we're doing problem, like I said, first thing we want to do is shift input to clear the memory, shift input, and let's just go ahead and do a problem. So let me zoom into this. So these are just really basic TBM problems. So the first one is that we have an investment opportunity. Oh, so one other thing. So you remember in the Excels, a lot of times I put in the present value as a negative. It's because for Excel and for the calculators, cash flows out are represented as negative numbers. So cash flows in are positive numbers. So whenever we're showing negative cash flows on the calculator, don't use this minus sign. Don't use this. You need to use this button, this plus or minus. That changes the sign of a number. So I'll show you that in a second. So we're looking at this problem right here. You have an investment opportunity that offers an interest rate of 6. You plan to invest $5,000 today for 5 years. What's the future value? So we'll just do it on a new page. So we know that PV is 5,000, and we're going to represent this as a negative number. T is 5. Number of periods is 5. And R is 6. I mean, the rate is actually 0.06%. But in the calculator, since the calculator automatically divides by 100, you can just use the number straight. And so what are we calculating? We're going to calculate that future value is what we need, equals PV times 1 plus R to the T. So literally what that is it's going to be 5,000 times 1 plus 0.6 raised to the 5. That's the math. So how do we do this in here? First thing we need to do is, it doesn't matter what order you do it in, but we're going to shift input to clear the numbers. Let's do the present value first. It's going to be 5,000. I push this number, change the sign, because it's money we're investing. It's a negative cash flow to us. We put the money in right now. And then I just press PV. So the calculator stores this as the PV. Now I need to put in the rate. That's just going to be 6. And it's this interest per year button, I over year. Number of periods is 5. Press 5. And that is N. On the calculator, it's N. We use T in the formulas, but on the calculator, this is N. So we put in the 3 variables. The calculator now knows what the 3 variables are. We've given it the PV as minus 5,000. We've given it the T as 5. And we've given it the rate as 6. And then all we have to do now is just press FV, and it'll calculate it for us, because it has it automatically knows which one is missing. And so the answer to this question is the future value is going to be 6691. 6691.13, because with cents we're gonna round up. So that's the future value. Now, since we have all these numbers already stored in the memory, like we stored R and T, R got stored in this button, T got stored in this button, the 5,000 negative 5,000 got stored in this button. The first thing we have to do when we go to a new problem is we have to clear the memory. So that's going to be shift input on my version. So now the memory is cleared. So now we need to figure out this 10,000 future value problem. So let's do that. We want FV to be 10,000. We have 8 years to get there, and the investment opportunity is 5%. So we are solving for how much money do we need to put in today. So that is the discounting formula. That's going to be PV equals FV over 1 plus R to the T. So literally we're just going to be doing 10,000 over 1 plus 0.5 raised to the 8. So for the calculator, input clear, or shift input to clear it, 10,000 is the future value. Eight is the number of periods, T or N. 5 is the rate. We plug it into this button. And so we've given it 3 of the 4 variables. It knows which variable is missing, which is the PV. We just press PV. And you notice that this number, is negative because this is the cash flow we needed to invest at the beginning. So our answer is going to be 6768.39. So in other words, if you invested $6,768.39, you invested it for 8 years at an interest rate of 5%. At the end of that time period, you would have $10,000. This is the same thing, same problem. So shift input, clear. You invested 3,000 PV at 4%. You want it to grow to 5,000. How many years do we need to leave it into the account? So shift input clear. 3,000 is our PV. Change the sign because it's negative. Store it in PV. 5,000 is the target. Store it in FV. 4 is the rate. So now the calculator has 3 of the 4 values. The one that we're missing is the T. So we need to store it for 13.02 years. Last problem. Shift input to clear it. We invested $2,500. After 6 years, we had $4,000. What was the annual interest rate that we got? This is actually a really important calculation that you will see a lot in the deal world, where the investor knows how much money they put in, they know how long they were in the investment, and we know how much we paid them out of the investment, and then they're trying to figure out, because they have to report to their investment committee, and we also get compensated based on what are the returns that we actually generated from them. So this is based on actuals, not on pro formas. So shift input, clear it. The investor put 2,500 present value. So we flip the sign first. They put 2,500 into the deal. 4,000 is what they ended up with, the future value. 6 is the number of periods. We gave it 3 of the 4 variables. The one that we need is what was the actual rate of return, which is the R. Just push the button. 8.14. And that's the basics on how to use the calculator. So for some of the chapter 6 formulas, I'm going to see if I can figure out a better recording setup, and I'll probably do all the chapter 6 videos on Saturday from my brother's house, because I think he's got a better setup. But hopefully this gets you at least through the chapter 5 homework. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.